Alright guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. There was a crazy rumour emerging over the last couple of days that Dashy at some point might end up on the Los Angeles Grillers. Shotzzy has responded to this and says there's absolutely zero chance in hell this is happening anytime soon. But also, the big concern of the beta really for most pro players was around the spawns. Rumours are now emerging. Sledgehammer are taking serious action to resolve this issue, and if they can, especially for the respawn mode obviously, then we could be in for a seriously good season. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. If you guys are looking for a job, look no further than this role. Vice President of Esports at the Canucks Sports and Entertainment. That's basically the ownership for Vancouver Titans and the Seattle Surge. Pretty interesting role to have up, I'm not gonna lie. You know, okay, they want someone with some pretty big experience, and there's a lot of things you got to do. But yeah, Vice President of Esports role available for, you know, to kind of oversee the Vancouver Titans and what will shortly be the Vancouver Surge. Kind of interesting to think about where their organization might be headed, just because, you know, we know that Octane and others have talked about mismanagement at Seattle, shall we say. They did, in fairness, do a pretty good tweet yesterday, because Rocker managed to look at this FaZe news, and they dropped their classic drop your roster tweet, where they look at Ravens and Gorillas and Vegas, and they say, hey, let's get it sorted. And Surge, you know, obviously clowned them pretty hard for this one, which I thought was pretty entertaining. Just to quickly mention, I know that Clay's definitely going through some things at the moment. I don't know how much of this is, you know, personal related, how much of this is roster related. I think there is some roster stuff going on, but it may be kind of solidified for Clay at the moment where he's up to. I know that, you know, Clay was in Texas, right, and people have been speculating what's going on with Clay, and yeah, I don't really want to get into the details on that, but we're pretty sure that if he does join Carolina, he's probably going to be based out of Charlotte, right? Because that's what happened before. And even last year, and maybe the year before, actually, well, I think it was the year before, the Ravens team, despite being based in London, were playing out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I think last year, were they playing out of, was it last year they were playing out of LA, or was it the year before? I kind of get a bit confused. So whatever's happening there, they have, even when they were London, they played out of Charlotte, at least at a time. So I would imagine it's going to be a similar thing here. So yeah, I guess Clay's got to move. And, well, if you do believe that he's joining Carolina, he will have to move. And therefore, maybe that aligns with a little bit of what we're seeing on social media from him over the last couple of days. But yeah, hope all's well for Clay, and hope that this season goes well for him in what might quite possibly be his final year competing. He definitely made that clear that there's a likely chance this is it for him. Hoping he can go out with some sort of a bang, right? I mean, like last season with the Vegas story, if they'd have made champs and they did quite well at champs, that would have been nice. Hopefully this time they can do something similar. But yeah, depends on what team Clay can form around him, which still I think is possibly in flux, depending on what, you know, the max situation we talked about yesterday. There's some implications of that to kind of, well, figure out for these teams. But I think that Clay to Ravens is probably going to be a done deal sooner rather than later, and maybe this means the contract is signed if he's now planning to move out there very shortly. This was also noted, I know that a lot of talk about this because Zuma was not included on the Esports Awards stuff when that was officially confirmed as nominations a little while ago. Obviously with the flank as well. So, you know, quite cool to see Zuma get recognised for this. I know that people generally think, okay, well, these award shows, there's always bias in play, you know, whether you go as far to say there's corruption in play is probably one step too far in certain situations, but I know that probably most people don't really massively care what happens on these award shows, but I always think it's good to see people get recognised for their work. So cool to see they added Zuma on as well. But let's talk about some of these clips going around, because there's talk about spawns, there's also this weird Dashy rumour, and, you know, just some more Dashy clips floating around, but I did want to show a few of them here. So one of the big ones is no doubt on the spawns. This was a major complaint during the course of the beta as to the fact that the spawns weren't particularly good. Karma talked about it, Exclusive Ace talked about it, and the funny thing was that Karma said, is there even a spawn system? It doesn't make any sense. A lot of the pros said the same thing. Exclusive Ace, who knows probably, you know, not maybe more about spawns than anyone on the planet, but he's definitely up there, right? I mean, the spawn analysis he's done for Call of Duties for, you know, decade really at this point, to look at where people spawn, how the logic tends to work, and stuff like this. He is one of the go-to guys for that kind of information, and he looked into it, and he really couldn't figure out what was going on either, right? It doesn't seem like squad spawns, which we had in especially the, you know, Infinity Ward, Modern Warfare 19 days, where you spawn at based on where your teammates are, far more so literally on top of them, rather than where the enemies are, which was yeah, the pros didn't like it. It doesn't make for a good spawn system, but it is at least somewhat readable. If you know where one guy is, you probably know what's going to happen to the rest of the guys as well. It might not make the most sense from a competitive integrity perspective, but that is one way of doing it, so at least you can read some of the spawns. This beta version of MW3, Karma said, was the worst spawns he'd seen in 15 years of Call of Duty, which is not exactly ideal when there are so many other really positive aspects of the game that we would like to enjoy. And especially for the respawn modes, this creates a massive problem. We already don't know how well Hardpoint's going to play on these maps, or Capture the Flag, or Control, for example, or Headquarters, whatever you want to say is going to be the third game mode this season. Maybe just chuck another Hardpoint in there. Some people would like to see that. But if the spawns don't work, Respawn is kind of ruined on this game. That needs to be fixed. Exclusive says that from what he's heard, they are working on this. And from what I've heard as well, like, yeah, Sledgehammer know spawns is a top priority, and they are working, you know, that's probably one of their primary focuses right now on fixing the spawns, and they believe they can get that done by the time the game comes around. Also, the clip on the whole Dashy versus, Shotzzy thing on Los Angeles Gullers.
Spawns. They did mention between Weekend 1 and Weekend 2 that their team is investigating reports of poor spawn selection quality. So again, no specifics there as to what they're planning on changing with the spawn system, but I have seen a lot of people saying that this spawn system in the beta was working exactly how they wanted it to work and they're not going to be making any changes. And that's not true. Not only have they publicly stated that they are looking into spawns and will be making tweaks for launch, another thing I wanted to mention here is they've actually reached out to me directly in private, specifically for feedback on how they can improve the spawn system, and that's one of the things that prompted me to make that spawn feedback video that I've made, which I have sent off to them, and they have confirmed that people at the studio have been watching it. Now, does this mean that I expect the spawns to be totally fixed and in an amazing state at launch? No, probably not. All I wanted to point out here is it is something they're going to be actively working on. Hopefully we do see some noticeable improvements for launch, but unfortunately this is one of those things where we won't know till we actually get our hands on it again.
On Reddit, they say Dash will leave OpTic for LAG. Holy fuck, they're smoking that. Yeah! They're smoking that fucking gas.
So I don't really know where this Dashy to LAG rumor started from, to be honest. I'm pretty sure it was just some guy on Reddit, like, made it up. And then over the last couple of days, a few people start talking about it now and again. And then obviously someone put it in the chat to Shotzzy and was like, hey, is Dashy going to LAG? Like, what's going on? And to be honest, this wouldn't have been a completely unreasonable suggestion somewhat less than a year ago when Dashy was benched from OpTic for, like, the second time. At the time, LA Gorillas still had money. And, I know people clown on LAG now, and for good reason, really. I'll just have to put this full screen because these shots are so crisp. But, people clown on LAG at the moment, and I get it, because they're not forming a team. We don't know what they're doing, how serious they're taking it. It doesn't seem like they are. But let's be honest, people clowned on them hard for the last few years for actually taking it serious, right? You know, there was some time they were putting in a lot of money, a lot of resources, paying Aches an absolute fortune to play COD for them, but yet, of course, it was backfiring massively because their team just straight up wasn't any good. So, they've got clowned either way. They got clowned when they tried. Okay, they didn't try particularly well in terms of what rosters they actually formed, but they tried hard in terms of committing resources. And now they're, maybe not trying anymore. Now they're getting clowned for that as well. And it's justified either way, but, people were obviously taking the mick. At the same time, they did at least have money to spend. And when Dashy was released by OpTic for the, second time, there was, the feeling probably was that he wouldn't return after the second time. When he was benched last year, the Rambo thing went down. Scump then retired, which opens the door for Dashy to return. But if that hadn't have happened, then who knows? Dashy might have had to go elsewhere. Obviously, other teams would have been interested. Seattle, plenty of other top teams would have wanted Dashy, obviously. But Gorillas at the time still had money. They still had resources. They were still paying Arcetes the mega bag. That was, maybe a brief possibility. Then, of course, he returns to OpTic, and we know what's happened since then. But yeah, this was the weird rumor. I don't know if it was started by this guy, because I tried to look through his profile kind of history to see if he'd actually posted on this initially. I couldn't really find anything, but as he says there, this is more confirmation LAG will not be signing Dashy, PaulX, Illy, and Havoc. That was like the rumored team of four. And of course, okay, PaulX, Havoc not signed, but Illy, we know he's been on Seattle or Vancouver surge for a long time. And obviously Dashy's on OpTic, so I don't exactly know where this came from, but yeah, Shotzzy shuts it down. So if you are, if you were concerned, like not like you were, but if you were concerned that Dashy was going to, he was snaking OpTic to get ready to join LAG and break his contract, then yeah, don't worry about that. What LAG do, whether Porlex and Havoc or Gunless or other options could be good ideas, definitely possible, but yeah, we simply have no idea as it stands. So just to talk in some more detail about the spawns there, right, because Exclusive A says that from, yeah, his POV, they're trying to fix this. He's made a video on it, he's sent it to the guys on Sledgehammer, they're looking into it to analyse what they can change and do differently, and to be fair, the spawns are never very good in the beta usually. They're usually not very good when the game launches, but they are like probably the most important thing in the game apart from the maps itself. I mean, the quality of the maps is determined by the quality of the spawn system in part, and that is a big deal. I mean, sure, the maps can be great, but if the spawns suck, they're going to play terribly, especially for respawn. Search is always going to be fine because you really can't mess up the spawns in Search and Destroy, but in respawn, the logic in play, where people spawn in certain scenarios, which spawns are chosen, which is a big deal for Capture the Flag. Like, CTF straight up cannot work if there are not set spawns where players have to think about, all right, do I wrap back? Do I overextend? We didn't see Capture the Flag in the beta, so we just straight up don't know whether that's going to be effective or not, but it's a big problem for Sledgehammer to presently solve. If they can make progress on it, great, but let's not forget that back in MW19, okay, not a Sledgehammer game, but that year, the game launched with pretty bad spawns and just a pretty bad game state in general. There was rumours, right, and the teams were getting told, this is what Aches has recounted multiple times, that the dev said, you know what, guys, yeah, we get it, we hear your complaints, and we're going to fix all these issues. The game's going to be brand new come late December, January. We're going to have a brand new update, and it's going to completely overhaul the game. Spawns are going to be fixed. Time to kill is going to be better. Whatever you say, we're going to do it. Now, knowing Infinity Ward, of course, none of that actually happens. And to be honest, when Christmas comes around and you've got Thanksgiving and everything, these things tend to just not really happen. So, thankfully they did go from 26 hardpoint rotations on Grasna Rays to actually a more reasonable number of hardpoint rotations on most of the maps in that title. But nonetheless, there were some teams that simply didn't even bother practicing the game because they thought that it was going to be entirely overhauled in about a few weeks' time. That never even occurred. The spawn updates never happened. And, the entire community kind of got blue-balled on that one, basically. So now we fast forward to the present day. Do I trust Sledgehammer more to actually deliver on this rumour and on their word that they are resolving it to Ace and to others? I think I do, and they've got a couple of weeks to figure this out. Hopefully it'll be okay at launch. Hopefully they can come up with an update a couple of weeks after launch to make it even better, because that is going to be crucial. The maps are one thing, but if the spawns don't work, then they're not going to work for respawn modes, right? Now, even as Octane says, this could generally be the worst COD ever to exist, and I'd still love it because I'm spawning in on good maps, which is true. The maps make Call of Duties. There's no doubt about it. The maps, to me, are the most important thing in the game. But, Hardpoint won't play well, even on Raid, if the spawns are complete trash. And as Octane is actually quote tweeting here, MW3 apparently will see more than 12 brand new, or at least new 6v6 maps over seasons, with 3 brand new maps coming with both Season 1 and 2. And some fan favourite maps may well return, primarily some classics here from MW3, Arcade and Seatown, stuff like this, would be really cool to see. So Octane's obviously down for that. We'll see if any of this stuff actually happens. Search and Destroy, I have no concerns at all it's going to play well in this game. These maps play well back in the day. I guess there is, some questions about the snipers, about the smoke grenades. Certain maps, can you just hold a cross with the sniper? Is that going to be allowed? But the fact that Dead Silent is a thing, the time to kill in this game, it should be a really good time, but whether that actually happens in reality, of course, is an entirely different question. So very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.